So how does action fit in? How does action fit in? You get inspired to the action, and you don't do anything that isn't inspired. Fired. You're going to get fired.
Hi. So first of all, thank you. I got exposed to your work around 1995, and it's been just a wonderful gift in my life, and continues to be. And so what I want to explore is, as soon as my heart slows down, as I go through time, I have sort of a roller coaster ride of the experience of my health. And generally, it's very good. But in the last few years, I've had some experiences of it not being so good. And so I do a number of different things. I've meditated for years, and I've explored internally my relationship with how I think and feel. And there are times when things disappear, and I'm wonderful and fine. And times when I can feel myself relaxing into well-being. But yet I also find that I go back to what seems to be beliefs about what's possible, what's not possible, and and I live in this world where everyone dies.
Yeah.
So I know that I and everyone will somehow, sometime have that.
We like the conversation to go, everyone dies, instead of everyone dies.
Yeah, and that's actually what I want to be more in tune with.
Yeah.
And it's not only everyone dies, because I've always felt that I don't really care so much about how I die as much how am I living. And that's really what I want to flesh out for me, because I find that it's almost like the phrase having my foot nailed to the floor comes to mind, because I have references from the past about what's possible, and references in the present about what's possible as I look around.
Well, your guidance system is showing you which of those thoughts are helpful for the desire that you hold right now, and which of those thoughts aren't helpful, so you can sort those beliefs out. But sorting the beliefs out into helpful and unhelpful piles is only the first step. Then you've got to practice the helpful ones into dominance. That really is what you're talking about. Identifying which thoughts or beliefs are helpful and which aren't, and then deliberately practicing the helpful ones into dominance. So that, because law of attraction will help you. We'll come back around to that if you want to. We've said it and we think you heard it, but there's another piece that we wanted to jump right in the middle of, because we've already laid a really good basis for it in talking about Esther not being able to even see something that was right in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really want to turn this conversation toward what is being revealed to any of you at any point in time is really based upon what you're doing with your grid. Let's say that you think, and we're going to use numbers that aren't accurate, but let's say you think 100 thoughts a day. Now that's not even close to accurate, but it's manageable in an analogy.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you think 100 thoughts a day, and they're about a lot of different subjects, but 50 of them are turned toward some concerns you have about one thing or another. So a large part of your thought process is, you use the word, feels like you've got your foot nailed to the floor, is contradictory energy.
Mm-hmm.
So where you want to go is this way, but you've got thoughts going this way. And so that tug of war, which is the feeling of being stuck or the feeling of having your foot nailed to the floor, doesn't feel good when it's happening and isn't good for you. But beyond that, in other words, that's sort of easy to understand, that when you introduce contradiction or contrast or resistance into the equation, that it wouldn't be good for you. But there's another thing that is bigger in light of what we've been talking about here today, that you're really calling forth, and we really want to give it to you in a way that you can really feel it. And that is, your body will actualize whatever you're looking for and finding.
I've experienced that.
Whatever you're looking for and finding. And so we know there are so many schools of thought about, well, you need to look for it when it's little so that you can do something about it then, and all of that. But we really want to turn this conversation toward how really simple it is. In other words, just Forget about where things are right now relative to anything. Try for just a little bit to not measure your relationship with this that you want, or this that you want, or this that you want. Just kind of see yourself standing in this neutral place with a fresh palate and not worrying too much about where you are in relationship with anything. And then try to get your thoughts around the idea that whatever thought you generate is going to start pulling unto itself. Whatever thought you generate is going to bring more to it and more to it and more to it, until it's going to get big enough that it shows up in a way that you can see it. We really like the word revealed until it's revealed to you. We really like the word realized until I realized it, because everyone has the potential of realizing wanted and unwanted. So I want to practice myself into a vibration where I'm able to realize what I'm wanting to see. It really is about a mindset, but it's not about saying this is a good thought and this is a bad thought. That will drive you crazy. It's about, oh, that was a comfortable thought and that was an uncomfortable thought. Oh, that was a comfortable thought, because the comfortable thoughts are the resonance with your source, and resonance with your source is the only thing that you're asking for. That's where clarity comes from. That's where stamina comes from. That's where vitality comes from. That's where wit comes from. That's where the wellness that you're seeking comes from. It's resonance with source.
I think one of the things that I've been struggling with is that I maybe expect more of a consistency, or for me to like reach a higher level and stay there more often.
Well, maybe, and you're reaching for that, and it comes the more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it. But the word struggle is really telling, because struggling isn't comfortable. So every struggling thought is the opposite of what we were just encouraging. So that conversation that you just offered to us felt uncomfortable. So if you weren't standing here with us where we were going to nail you for it, and you were on your own, you might have said, well, that was an unpleasant thought. That was an uncomfortable thought. Therefore, that's not a resonant with source thought. And since it's not a resonant with source thought, then it's not beneficial. And it doesn't mean I can stop at this red hot minute, because there is a momentum. We really want to introduce the word momentum in. Last week we offered an analogy, and it's one that we've spattered in and out for a long time. Imagine you standing at the top of a hill. Maybe you're in San Francisco. It's a good place to envision. And your car's there. It's out of gear. The parking brake isn't on. It's just sitting there. Gravity is just holding it there. And something just nudges it, maybe even a little wind current, and it just barely begins to roll downhill, just barely. But you're standing right there, and you're aware of what's comfortable and what's not comfortable. So you just step in front of it, put your knee against the bumper, and that stops that. That's all it took. It was so simple. But let's say you're used to things being uncomfortable, and so you weren't alarmed in the discomfort because you're used to it. And so momentum began. And so you go all the way down to the bottom of the hill, and you're watching it come at you, and you say, I got it. I got this. I got this. I got this. And it's not that comfortable. It would have been way easier earlier. Jerry used to offer the analogy of sitting before the fireplace with a fire is chinkapin, pop, 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 and it lands on your sweater. And if you do this, all is well. If you don't, it will burn a hole in your sweater pretty quickly. And so conceptually, it's just a matter of being aware, but it's not monitoring thought and guiding thought. It's caring about resonance, which means resonance with what? Resonance with all that is good. Resonance with every request I've ever made, with what I put into my vortex before I was born, with what I've been adding to it ever since. Resonance. And what you begin to discover as you find that resonance is that you find yourself sometimes doing something that you said you wouldn't do, but doing it with confidence and certainty because it fits. It fits with all that you are. You're not weighing the pros and the cons anymore. You're not saying to this person, what do you think? And what do you think? And what do you think? Because I'm trying to find this right action in all the possible actions. Instead, because you've come into resonance with who you really are and with all that you want. This clarity about the action that's going to move you toward what you want is just so obvious and so vivid and so not controverted. There's no contest. It's like you don't feel like you need to ask anybody, because and that's what that true inspiration is that you're reaching for, you see. This is a big conversation, and you felt it on every level. We know you did.
Yes.
It's just a matter of being easy about it and caring about resonance with Source, because Source is standing over there in alignment with all that you are, all that you've become vibrationally, and that resonance leads you to the path of that. And so then you discover that this conversation isn't about action or non-action, because there's a whole lot of action involved. When that resonance comes, your inspiration to move forward in a direction is very, very powerful.
Yeah, I feel sometimes that I'm so much in my head and trying to wrestle this thing to the ground and stop it and fix and change things that I don't want. And
let us give you something really fun. You're going to like this. When you're struggling in your head, that means you got all this contradictory energy going on, and you're not in your grid, you're not in alignment, and so it's a struggle because you're outside of alignment. Mm-hmm. When you take the time to get into alignment by being general and getting out ahead of things, then it doesn't feel like struggle in your head. It feels like, this is what I'm going to do. It feels like a good idea. It feels like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and then you find yourself saying things with confidence and certainty, because you're in complete alignment, you see. Mm-hmm. So we've said it in a lot of different ways over time. We've said, get into the vortex and then. Esther, we've teased about her. She would say, I don't have time to meditate. And we would say, you don't have time not to meditate. Why not take the time to do the thing that prepares the grid so that everything can be realized, so that you can realize a good idea? Realize. Can you feel the difference in the way? Realize it, manifest it, experience it, actualize it, be aware of it, observe it, see it, comprehend it, get it, so that you can get it. So that you can be in the gettable, itable place. Get it. Mm-hmm. I can get it. And the reason I'm getting it is because I stopped the struggle, because the struggle felt uncomfortable. Esther said to herself a lot, because there were things she didn't want to think about and things that she couldn't keep from thinking about. They were things that had happened. They were like emblazoned on her brain, so she kept thinking about it. She didn't want to think about them. And so she started saying, well, that was unpleasant. Well, that was unpleasant. After a while, she started saying, well, that was unnecessary. Well, that was unnecessarily unpleasant. Until after a while, she just started talking herself into more pleasant thoughts about more things. Until it's really rare now that something comes up that gives her a flashback that she doesn't want to have active in her vibration, you see. Mm-hmm. That was unpleasant. Why am I pondering that? It's like tasting something that tastes awful and saying to your friend, oh, try that. That's just awful.
Yeah.
Any struggle you ever feel is because you are out of resonance with who you are.
Yes.
So stop it.
Okay. Thank you.
This is the perfect time for a segment of refreshment.